4.4 billion years. That's how old Australia is. This specific article talks about the Iron Jack Hills in Western Australia. So Australia, or at least these awesome hills, formed only 100 million years after the Earth itself had formed. Not too long in the scale of the entire Earth. Still though, 4 billion years is a lot of time to move about. Which is exactly what the continents were doing during this entire time. But despite all this activity, Australia just decided to kick back and relax. Just chill, enjoy the Earth. Not much going on here in terms of continental change. Movement, sure, but not much change. Well, at least not change in the rock. This country may have the first rocks, but did it have the first life? Well, based on what I could find, there isn't really a clear-cut or exact answer. Some people say it emerged in South Africa, some say Western Greenland, but what do I think? Western Australia! But seriously, there is a level of difference around where and when life is first said to have emerged, understandably, but the furthest estimates for the origins of life are around 4.28 billion years. But for now, let's just group all these places together as the emerging points for life on Earth. Now, what I really want to talk about are stromatolites. These are found in only a few places on Earth, one of those being Shark Bay, in Western Australia. Now, the first life was just some really simple and basic single-celled organisms, but these stromatolites, some next-level stuff here. I mean, you'd think it's a rock, and it basically is. Or is it? Well, no, it's not a rock, but what it is might actually be even cooler. Basically, as a really oversimplified explanation, these structures are not living themselves, but made by living things. Cells, cyanobacteria, cells which can feed off of light and produce energy. They can photosynthesize. These microbes were pretty sticky, so tiny bits of sediment would stick on them. But that means they can't access sunlight to photosynthesize. So what do? Move upwards towards the sun. As they move up, and get covered again. Move, cover, move, cover. The process repeats itself for countless years. These layers harden and become like rock. Now, eventually the microbes obviously die, but the shell is left behind. So, these things are like skeletons. Skeletons which are 3 billion years old. And the most amazing part, some of these guys are still alive. There are some pockets on Earth where you can actually find some living stromatolites. One of those being in Shark Bay. Now, here's a way to try and appreciate how old these guys can actually get. These stromatolites grow slow. Very slow. We're talking less than a millimeter in a year. These guys usually grow to about a meter or more. So that's about 2,000 to 3,000 years of growth. But let's speed things up. Go forward quite a long time. Let's talk about the popular animals, the ones that are cool. Dinosaurs. If you think the animals in Australia are dangerous today, then just wait till you see what dinosaurs lived here. There were, of course, many dinosaurs which roamed this land, but I'll quickly go over a few ones that I found to be noteworthy. Australoventor, I'm not completely sure how to pronounce this. It was a member of the Megaraptor family. Now, that's already such a sick-sounding family name, but this dinosaur was something else. Around 2 meters tall and 6 meters long, weighing maximum up to 1 ton, this ghoulish beast was the terror of ancient Australia. It had 30 centimeter long claws, and while its teeth weren't as massive, their deadly serrations only meant more pain for whatever unlucky animal was its prey. Estimates put its running speed going up to 48 kilometers per hour or so. So good luck trying to outrun this guy. And also, he was nicknamed Banjo. Australotidon, another cool name. This was one of the sauropods of Australia. Our biggest one so far, actually. 30 meters tip to tip. 6.5 meters tall at the hip and weighing in at around 70 tons. Ozraptor, I just included this because I like the name. All we know about this dinosaur comes from one fossilized leg bone, which suggested it wasn't a big mean killer like Australovenator. Rather, it was estimated to be a modest 2 meters in length. While Kronosaurus isn't exactly a dinosaur, it definitely deserves a mention. Growing to about 12 meters and weighing 11 tons, this marine reptile patrolled the Eromanga Sea, an inland sea which covered a vast area of what is now Queensland and parts of the other states. This sea contained lagoons and rivers, all of which provided perfect conditions for this predator. No marine creature was safe with this guy around, nor any other animals which strayed too close to the shoreline. Now, let's go to the next cool period, the last Ice Age. You might think that with the dinosaurs gone, Australia would be a lot more tame. No such luck. You had Diprotodon, a car-sized wombat that weighed 3 tons. Procoptodon, a 240 kilogram, 2 meter tall beast of a kangaroo. Thylacoleo, a 130 kilogram marsupial lion. Dromornis, a 3 meter tall, 500 kilogram flightless bird which is argued to be the largest avian species to ever have existed. So yeah, Ice Age Australia was no better. But shortly before its end, the Ice Age did manage to finally bring the first humans into Australia. And yeah, they were also super cool. Estimates vary regarding when humans entered Australia, with some at 40,000 years ago, others at 50,000, and some going back to 65,000 years. Regardless of how long ago, we know that back then, due to the Ice Age, water levels had dramatically decreased. You know, with all the water locked up in ice. Because of this, Australia looked quite different to how it was today. The landmass of this time period, 65,000 years ago, was called Sahul. Now, Sahul was around for about 50,000 or so years. During this time, Australia was actually connected to Papua New Guinea. So, humans literally just walked into Australia, only to be cut off by the rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age, essentially trapping them in this new land. Now, when the first humans arrived in Australia, they had to deal with all the megafauna I just mentioned and even more, of course. However, they did have some pretty cool weapons to help level up the playing field. Now, they of course had your average stone flakes, not much help against a marsupial lion, but they also had their own version of the atlatl, the Woomera. Well, it wasn't really a version of the atlatl. I mean, there wasn't much of a functional difference. For those who don't know, an atlatl or Woomera is essentially a spear thrower, which acts as an extended arm of the person throwing it. This allows the spear to be thrown much further and faster, resulting in an incredibly deadlier hit. Of course, they also had their own bows and arrows, but they also had the boomerang. Now, this is the one weapon that it's like, what more do I really need to say about this? This thing is an icon around the entire globe, because it's so cool. Everyone knows about it. You throw the weapon, and it comes back to you. That's genius. Indigenous Australians used it for hunting birds, small game, and even larger animals. Now, after briefly glossing over more than 4 billion years, I'm going to talk about the one part of Australian modern history that I actually like. Ned Kelly. Now, if you're an Aussie, you already know who I'm talking about. To give a general overview, he was an Australian bushranger, an outlaw, who lived in the bush, and he lived in the 1800s. The armor he wore has become pretty famous in Australia. Made of iron plates and weighing 44 kilograms, not only does it look pretty cool, it managed to tank a total of 18 bullets. Of course, the guns back then weren't as advanced as they are today. But hey, this is in the 1800s. You got to give credit where credit's due. Okay, so that's about it. Now, I know I could make an entire series of videos on each of the topics in this video, and I've skipped over so many other things I could have talked about. But, I thought for my first history video, I'll just give a general overview of the country I live in. Of course, just talking about the bits that I think are cool about our history. If you enjoyed this video, or if you enjoy prehistory in general, make sure you like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.